administrative things. How this is going to work is I've got a couple things to say, and then I'm going to turn it over to Matt and to Pete, and they're going to talk about doing, making, and solving their metas. And then we'll have Q&A. One of the requests I have is Matt and Pete know our screen names. So if you could change from add your real name and add your screen name in there, like you see on some of them, that will help them link picture and faces with screen names. So second thing, if you have a question, don't wave your hand, but under reactions, you can raise your hand electronically like this. What that does is it lets me know that you've raised your hand, but it also puts you on the screen if we have more people that are on the screen. So do it that way. If you want to send a question in the chat, I'll pick those up too, and we'll direct them to Pete and Matt. So next thing, everybody but Pete and Matt are going to be muted. I'm looking, and I think everybody is. So if you have a question, when I call on you, unmute yourself, and so you can ask the question. We are recording the session, as you see. Once it's done, Matt and Pete are going to get a chance to do whatever editing they need to do, and then we will post it either through the forum or the Dropbox, and we'll let everybody know. And with that, I'm going to mute myself and turn it over to Mr. Gaffney.
Great. Thank you, Bob, and thank you, Pete. I'm very excited to talk to Pete about this to commemorate his 10 years of the Muller Monthly Music Meta. I asked him, I noticed it was 10 years just a couple months ago, and I said, Pete, let's do a fun Zoom talk about this because I have a lot of questions. This is actually the first time, except for a couple days ago, we talked in preparation for this, that we'd actually talked in the 10 years of the Muller Meta. So I have a lot of questions, and I know everyone else does as well. Pete is a musician, and they say about musicians that every musician is also a huge music fan. I think that is also true of crossword writers. I'm a huge fan. And there are not many puzzles out there, if there are any at all, that I'm a bigger fan of than Pete's metas. I have blogged them since day one, since month one back in April or May of 2012. And they are an event puzzle for me. I know when the Muller Meta is every month. I know if it's live. I know if it's just finished. I know if it's coming up. And if I can solve it, I'm psyched. If I can't, I'd tear my hair out. So Pete, on behalf of myself and everyone here, just want to say we've enjoyed this so much, all of them, and we're looking forward to more.
Matt, thank you so much. You know, it's funny when you sent me that email saying I'd like to do this interview to commemorate 10 years. I said, oh my God, is it really 10 years? And I went back, actually this afternoon, I went back and I saw our correspondence. I started solving your puzzles a year or two earlier, probably, you know, at number 100 or something like that. And I just found myself loving to do them every week. And I remember sending you an email saying, I'm working on a meta, would you ever consider publishing a guest puzzle? And it was, I think, around that time that you thought, oh, maybe I'm gonna do guest constructor month. So I ended up being the first one accepted. I think the second one published. June had the first one. And it was a puzzle called Got Game. And yeah, I was excited that you loved it and it was cool. And I started doing metas. In fact, I think I put it up on the screen. Let me see if I can find this somewhere here. Yeah, here's the puzzle. I have to share, I guess. And let me go in there and share.
I'm terrible at sharing screens, so it makes me so happy that you're struggling with it already.
Share a screen. Here we go. So this was the intro that you had after puzzle 215 and this week's guest constructor. And I just had started the Muller Monthly Music Meta. And I'll tell you the reason why I started it. And then here is the solution that you published the next month. It was, the answer was horseshoes. Sorry for the spoiler alert, but the puzzle's 10 years.
I think that's fair.
And it was already controversial because some people sent in horse and you had to decide whether to accept that as an answer or not. But I'm going to go back to on sharing. So
To accept which as an alternative answer?
horse. So there were the theme
Oh.
entries were race saddle, high platform, wild over, war court, Trojan tennis, and work safety. And it turned, so the way it worked, it was, I didn't remember this until I went back. It was horse race, high horse, wild horse, or race horse, sorry, war horse, Trojan horse, work horse, and then saddle shoes, platform shoes, overshoes, court shoes, tennis shoes, and safety shoes. So, so horseshoes was a desired answer, but some people simply sent in horse as the first answer. And you accepted it. And I think it might've been the first time you said, okay, you can't win the monthly, you're not eligible for the weekly prize, but you're good for the monthly prize.
The first of many Solomon-like decisions over the years.
Indeed.
I hope. But you would ask for a sport, right? So horse isn't really a sport, it's just a variant of the sport. So in retrospect, I probably shouldn't have accepted that. But it was early, so.
It's kind of, it's a basketball game, right? That's what people said.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, it's definitely a variant. But what happened was you accepted that, and then I got so excited, I sent you 3 more. And you said, Pete, this is great, but I'm only going to do, I'm going to do 4 different guest constructors every year. And, that's kind of it. But why don't you do your own puzzle? And I thought, oh no, I would never want to do my own puzzle. Every month I'd have to come up with a puzzle and then I thought, well, the good thing about publishing your own puzzle is, it's going to be accepted. And that's a wonderful thing as a constructor for people that, raise your hand if you create puzzles. I'm gonna take a look around the room. Can you raise your Zoom hand? I think it's easier. I don't know, I have a lot of blank screens.
There's a number of hands up, yeah.
I think we have a lot of constructors, and that even if you're, in tight with Will at the Times, maybe you get 1 out of 3 accepted. And you try really hard to figure out, okay, what is the editor gonna like? So being able to publish your own, you do need to please your audience and hope that they have a great time, but you have that freedom. So I gave it a shot, and you actually inspired me because you said, if you do this, I promise to blog it as long as you keep doing it.
Did I? Wow.
Now,
I kept that promise. I don't even remember making it, but I kept it.
You said it, and now when you made it, and if you don't remember it, you can't answer this question, but how long did you think it would go?
I really don't remember. I know others want to ask questions, but I would just like to ask you one specific one to start off with. Did you have any apprehension about focusing it on one specific category, even one as broad as music? Because it would never cross my mind to limit myself that way, but you've really made it work to your advantage. I guess your deep knowledge of music, your musician yourself has helped, but still, it's impressive that you would be able to keep them so fresh with one topic over 10 years.
I actually think it's just like the constraints on a grid that, it should be 15-15 and you should have mirror symmetry. The constraint actually adds to the creativity. So, what I found myself doing for inspiration a lot of times is I'll listen to I don't know, a pop station or a classic rock station and hear a song and then go, okay, how could that be an answer to?
Hello.
And yeah. I'll just keep on doing that. And if I'm in the right frame of mind, I'll come up with a couple of meta ideas and jot them down and go back to them.
Very good. So I think what we're going to do is maybe take a few questions for Pete, and then I have one of Pete's metas from the past, and Pete has a blast from the past of his own, and we're each going to analyze that one and go over it. And we'll probably take some questions in between that as well. But Bob, do you want to play moderator here with the questions?
Yeah, anybody who's got a question electronically, raise your hand. Got a quiet group.
We didn't give fair warning, but
yeah. Who is it?
I see a few.
Seth.
Hey Pete, how are you?
Hey Seth.
Good to see you. I have a question. You remember the Madonna meta that had the 2 crosses and the Madonna Louise Ciccone and the Immaculate Conception around the 2 crosses?
Yeah.
What was the creative process behind that? Because that was like one of those things is like, how could this all work? And it's amazing that it kind of all came together.
I will, it's funny. Do you remember when that puzzle came out or what it was called? I'll try to find it.
Ooh. I was surprised it was 10 years of doing this. Probably was 4 or 5 years ago at least.
Let me see if I can do a quick search.
You remember, Pete, it was the black square patterns, one was a cross, one was an inverted cross, just to be symmetrical. And
oh, I know, I remember it really well.
Yeah.
I just wanted to pull up my process.
Sorry, Pete, if I can just add, that was really early on.
But what was the title called? What was the title of that? Let's see, Immaculate. Maybe I'm just Madonna. I think I can search for it this way. Yep, Religious Inscription, 2013 Puzzle 5. How's that? So boom, I'm gonna pull up my Puzzle 5, and I think I found it. Let me share the screen, zoom, share screen, boom, share. Does that look like it?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the one.
So what I needed was the Immaculate Conception thing was a bonus. That came second. The first thing I needed was I wanted something that would go around a cross. And I thought about Madonna. I mean, this is a long time ago, so I'm trying to remember the exact process, and I'm not reinventing it. But I looked at a cross and noticed it was 21 letters, and I thought, okay, what could go there? And the cross could have been one longer, so I could have added a couple more letters. So I had a few different lengths, and so I checked in my Word database for things of that length, and I just did a scan, and I remember seeing that and going, oh, that would be perfect, and then trying to fit it around the cross. And the advantage you have is you can start at any square and move it around. And the fill, you need, for example, OCC, you need to figure out that is going to be, part of a longer word. And you need a 4-letter word, Isis here, and a Lu, which I turned into Alouette. So I remember rotating it around and trying every combination until I found something that worked. And I thought the puzzle was just going to have one cross. And then I thought, ooh, the cross is over here. I'm going to have symmetry. I wonder if there's something else I can put on the other side. And so I went through the Madonna catalog for 21 letters, and I saw Immaculate Collection, and I thought, oh my God, that would be amazing. And I did the same thing, and I tried it, and I rotated it around, and I thought, oh wow, this works. I was kind of blown away by it. The Italian American that came down the middle of that was just a bonus. If I didn't find that, earlier versions of that grid had me a little puzzled, because if you notice the way the crosses work and the way those words around it work, there's no other blocks that I can put, and I need a 15-letter down so when I looked there and I saw Italian American, I thought, okay, I need to make this work. And I don't remember if the fill was pretty good for this puzzle, but I'm looking at it and it's not bad. I don't think there were a ton of compromises. You have redonned, which is not great. I don't think I would put that in a puzzle if it wasn't for this, or add. But as Matt knows, that if you have a cool enough meta, you can get away with some slightly subpar fill. So, well, thanks for reminding me of that one. I'd forgotten about that puzzle.
Yeah, I remember I so often on Pete's have this hyper competitive personality, and I think, okay, I half admire this and I'm kicking myself for not thinking of something like this before, of maybe not this specific idea, but of the letters around a prominent black square pattern. And this is one of those where I said, wow, that's beautiful. I wish it had my name on it instead of Pete's, but I'm glad somebody thought of it if it couldn't be me.
Heidi, you had a question on chat. Heidi, do you want to ask your question?
Oh,
Unmute
sure. Okay, got it. So when you do the mega meta every year, I assume that you figure out the mechanism ahead of time. But how do you make every puzzle for the 11 months? How do you do 11 puzzles, or do you just do parts of those 11 puzzles and then you figure them out later?
That's a great question. And I actually, the one thing I did prepare was I was going to go through the 2020 series of puzzles and show you how I put the mega meta in there. And especially, hopefully everybody knows about it, but I'll share that with you. What I do need to know is what the mega meta is going to be for the whole year. But I don't have to do all the puzzles. I just have to know, so for example, a few years back, I had words intersecting that had the same clue. There was Legend of Pop, and it was Cher and John intersecting on the H. And I knew that I had to put somewhere in the puzzle 2 crossing entries that intersected on an H with the same clue. So what I do is, for that month, I would build the meta puzzle the normal way. And then when I'm doing the fill, before I fill it, I look all around and try to figure out where I could put those, 2 words with the same clue. And it turns out that adding the mega and also the red herring to a puzzle will multiply the amount of time it takes me to fill it by 50 or 100%. Because usually the metas are really packed already, and then I add this constraint and I have to put this in. So, it can be torture, and it's torture that I've set up for myself, but hopefully it's really fun to solve. So it's a good combination, but I'm going to go through that in a minute. So that's a great question. I see that people are talking about the puzzles being available online, and they are on the website. And if you actually go through, there is an archive. At some point, I actually had this idea that I wanted to publish them all in a book, and that maybe I would take them down. But you guys have been followers. You're on here, so you can just type in the Mike W. actually put in a link, and you can just put the year in, and you can check out all the old puzzles. So, and Barbara asked the same question. Cool.
Anybody have another question?
Yeah, I have a question. Can you hear me?
I can't see who's speaking.
This
Peter,
is Jay
raise your
Miller.
Jay, hi Jay.
Jay.
Hey, Pete, how are
Jay,
you?
raise your hand so you move to the upper left-hand corner electronically.
What now?
Go to reactions and raise your hand.
Don't see it.
Are you on a PC?
I'm on an iPad.
Okay, I don't know where it is.
How's about I do that? Does that work?
Yeah, looks like I need a shave.
Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, Pete, I know you started doing your puzzles so Matt would have a puzzle to be able to do. Do you do Matt's puzzles now?
I do. I definitely solve, the week 1, 2, and 3, and then weeks 4 and 5, I give myself about 30 minutes. And then if I can't solve it, I forgive myself. I used to be really crazy about making sure I tackled all of them, and then I just realized, oh my gosh, I just run out of time. But I always do look at it and try to figure it out. But I figure for me, as a solver on a week 5, I would probably need an hour or 2 to have a shot at it. And so I give myself a certain amount of time, and I put it in the background, and I fall asleep with it for a night or 2. And then if I can't get it, I go, okay.
Well, that's fair. One reason I like blogging your puzzles is because it forces me to solve them no matter if I'm busy that week, and I might just say, oh, okay, I'll skip one. But I really like that I blog them, because then I can't skip, and I'm glad when I finish it, or even don't finish it, that I gave it a shot. So, but I do get it. I do get putting a limit on a week 5. That is a rational plan of action.
I actually also, you know, I got to love your puzzles. Love your puzzles. And, you know, it's just, you know, you have 4 times as many as I do. And there's so many times I go, oh my God, that's fantastic. And I look at, you know, your ratings on Fiend, and, you know, you have, you know, 95% 5s, and, and I'm like,
Okay.
that 5% didn't do it. So, yeah, big fan.
Well, great. Should we take a couple more questions, or should we look at one of your puzzles?
Why don't we look at the one of the puzzles, unless somebody electronically raises their hand? Go for it, Matt.
Okay, Pete, you want to analyze your end first? Or do you want me to do it first?
I'm real easy. We had that mega meta question. I could go through that, or
Okay, yeah, let's jump into the mega meta if you want to do that.
yeah, because with the mega meta, I was going to go through a couple puzzles. Okay, so let's see. We'll hit the share, and let me get to the right place on this. So what I thought we would do is go to 2020, and so this is a list of, so this is available for every year. There's one for this year. I thought I wouldn't get into any of this year's puzzles because I didn't want to give anything away on the mega meta. And you can always see that. So for me, people always send in, and I appreciate this. You know, they give it a certain amount of stars and a certain amount of sweat, so I can see the difficulty level, and I just go through, and then I put down how many correct, and then I go through and I kind of see if the sweat is around 2 to start, which is great, and then around November I want it to be pretty hard, and you know, it usually breaks 4. That's my goal, and you can see the number of solvers last year went from 471 down to 60 in November, so that's about right. And then there are links to the puzzle and the solution. So I'll pull up the first one from last year, just to, you know, here's a simple example. This is and the unlocked grids are always there. The elixir of life on everyone's lips, long-eared owl, and okay, let's eat. So to do the mega meta, so the thing, there are 2 things in here, and the first one, and this was interesting for 2020, the clue for the word date was 12/12/12, which is, you know, an unusual clue for date, and some people noticed it. And when you're looking for the mega meta, you look around and you go, what can I find that tips me off? And it turned out the thing you had to notice, which is very hard to do after one puzzle, is the clue for 14 across was Guthrie, whose 3rd album was the Alice's Restaurant soundtrack. And typically when you're trying to hide a mega or a meta, you have to resort to slightly awkward wording. And you know, the wording Guthrie, whose 3rd album was the Alice's Restaurant soundtrack, I needed the word 3rd in that clue. So I had to figure out a way to, you know, in the least contrived way to do that. And then I needed a crossing 3. So Alta, ski resort known for its super cheap ski after 3 tickets. And if I'm doing my job, people don't really notice that those are awkward. But that was the first part of the mega meta, because every one of the 12 puzzles that year had a crossing in it that had the, you know, in this case, 3. And we'll talk about how that matched up. So I'm going to close this puzzle, and I'm going to go to the 3rd puzzle. You guys can still see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. And the 3rd puzzle was called Surround Sound, and it was a rebus. I usually include 1 rebus puzzle every year, just for kicks. And it was an unusual rebus that actually was there, you know, for the meta itself, but it also related to the mega meta. Because if you guys remember the mega meta last year, the answer was Final Countdown. So, and typically, if I'm doing a mega meta, the easiest thing for people to think of is, okay, he's going to do a 12-letter song title. So I thought, well, I don't want to do a 12-letter song title, but what if I have a rebus for Finn? Can I think of a way to do a rebus puzzle that will be a standalone meta with a rebus Finn? Then I can do Final Countdown and do that in 12 puzzles. And sure enough, there's a Jimmy Buffett song called Fins. But I thought, well, if I do a rebus that's Finn, how can I? And the answer is Fins. That would be way too easy. But there's a line in it, can't you see them circling honey? And so I came upon the idea of doing a Finn rebus with honey in the middle. And so the Finn clue for the mega meta, if I look at 10 down, Marat Safin, I think that's how you pronounce his name, the first Russian to be inducted in the International Tennis Hall of Fame. So that's first. And then finger, large foam item that might say we're number one. So you have a crossing of one and first. And each of the 12 puzzles had something like this. So this is the way that I got the beginning bit of Final Countdown. And now I'm going to pop and show you the whole year. Okay, that's, and the whole year is over here. So these are the 12 puzzles of the year. And you can see in the neon green colors, all of the crossing letters that had clues with, that had the first, second, third, the puzzles on the right, and then the clues on the left. So you had Annias and Minute crossing in the second puzzle, and then you had the words 7 in there. You had Finn, which we saw. You had Milo and Once crossing. So if you went through the puzzles, you ended up spelling Final Countdown. Now the tricky thing is I also put in something called a red herring in there, which is designed to mislead people, but it's if you will, it's also an easier to get mega. So we saw 12, 12, 12 as a clue for date in the first puzzle. The clue for Nero in the second puzzle was Emperor, for whom 11 plus 11 plus 11 is equal to XXXIII. And so on and so forth for 10, 9, 8, and 7, tie 7, 7 in the 7th. These clues were obvious enough to stick out. And if you look at if you look at backwards, the red herring was intended to be the end. Now, the funny thing that happened in 2020 is a number of people saw those clues, and the prompt for the Mega Meta was a famous rock song. And after 3 puzzles, people guessed Final Countdown without seeing the actual mechanism. And there were something like 10 people guessed Final Countdown before they actually saw the actual mechanism. But they got full credit for it anyway. So Heidi, I guess to answer your question on the Mega Meta, when I'm constructing, so if I look at that first puzzle, that New Order puzzle, the first thing I do is say, okay, I want an easy puzzle. I come up with the ELO. And I have Let's Off Easy, Elixir of Life, On Everyone's Lips, all 5 of those theme entries. And then I think, okay, where can I put 2 crossing words that cross on an L that that will give me, that I can clue with 3 or third. But I also, since it's the first puzzle, I can also, I also had the option of doing a 7 or a 6 or an 11. I had all those as my options. As I got closer to the end of the year, I didn't have as many choices. I'd only have 1 or 2 words that I thought I put in there. But what I thought is, I have enough flexibility. So as I get to the end, if for whatever reason the meta is so packed and I have to force something in there, I'll have an awkward clue and people will have a little extra window into the mega meta, and that's not a big deal. I do notice this year we only have 22 people that have gotten the mega. Some people got it pretty early, which was really impressive, and they got it without, not in the way that people got it last year. So I expect in November and December, since I want more people to get it, I'm going to be a little more obvious about the awkward clue. So that's a tip off for those of you listening. But you'll still have to go back and kind of figure out what was going on. But I really like the mega from this year. Okay, Matt, should I turn it back over to you?
Why don't we do a couple more questions if people have them, and then I can show a puzzle, one of my favorites from the past.
Cool.
If there are any raised hands, if not, I can jump right in.
Any raised hands?
I see a couple.
Jeff G.
All right, I better unmute.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Pete. Hey, Matt. Thank you guys both for doing this. I'm a big fan, as you know. Been doing them a long time. But I had a couple questions, if you don't mind. For Pete, I know you do such a great job on the website and all the write-ups that you do and everything like that. Do you do that all yourself, or do you have a webmaster that you help? And then the second question is, when do you notify the mug winner for the week? Sunday nights, Monday mornings? Those are my questions.
Indeed. So I actually do almost all of it myself. I do the write-up myself. I built the original web page, and then a few years ago I enlisted some help, and now I have somebody that helps me update and make and put the puzzle up. But I actually built the original thing, and I did it in WordPress, and it was cool. And when we changed the database system for the scoring, as we got more subscribers, I needed to get somebody that helped me with writing the database.
Okay, great.
And then the mug winner. So Sunday night, unless I'm traveling, I'll be in front of a computer at 11, right when the contest closes, and I will go through and I'll pick the mug winner, and I will send an email out that night. And then, and I've usually done the write-up by then, and I try to put it in there, but most of the time I don't hear back until the next morning. And sometimes I don't hear back at all. This week I didn't hear back until after I sent out the solution. Sometimes people don't check their email as often. I should give a shout out to the person that does help me on the tech side, David Williams, who's on this call and helped set up the Zoom. So he's been great to make this happen. I think he's lurking there somewhere in the background, making sure this works.
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm here.
Cool. I think Tamara has her hand up. Yeah.
Tamara, are you clapping or raising your hand?
I was just clapping.
Oh, you're clapping.
I'll just thank Pete for the great puzzles. I love them, even though I just started this past year in February.
Oh,
They're
welcome.
so fabulous.
Thank you. Thank you. That's
Ed Brody, you have your hand raised.
Hi. So I love the covers you and your band do, for each puzzle. It's just such a special treat every month. And I was wondering if there's ever any tension or debate over, choosing what song you're going to play.
Thanks. So the rule is, and I've said this, and I've pretty much kept to it, is I create a great puzzle to get an answer of a song that I like, but I do not pick a song and then do a meta for it. So it goes the other way, and the band has to learn the song. So when we came up with Riot Girl as the answer to one of the puzzles, this year, I thought, okay, this is never gonna fly. How are we gonna do? I'm not a big post-modern feminist punk rock fan. I mean, I'd heard of Bikini Kill, but I said to the band, let's see if we can cover Rebel Girl, and we spent a few hours on it, and we had so much fun with that cover that I think we're gonna actually put it on our next cover album. And the same was true for this past month for Muse, which turned out to be the answer to the Odd Man Out puzzle. I thought, okay, how are we going to cover Madness? I mean, we're not going to go hard rock. but it was really, really fun to learn. So now people just love it. You know, it's an excuse to learn stuff, and there's a real synergy for me because, to me, growing as a musician and touring around and putting out records is really important. And I mean, I love the Crossroads, but I've been doing that longer. So to have a reason to have to learn a song every month is fantastic. So thanks for asking about that.
Yeah.
That's cool. And
Yeah.
let me add, oh, go ahead, Ed.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's really cool, and it's fun. Like for a band like Muse, which I didn't know, then I can go back and hear their version. And like, you know, like Brendan Quigley always puts like really loud music on his one, and my wife is always, "What are you playing at 9 a.m?" And when I play yours, she never says anything. So I think that's a compliment.
That's cool. You know, it's really funny. People have really different tastes, and it's tricky, you know, coming up with something that everyone's heard of. I mean, people send in suggested musical clues every month. You know, this could have been used. And this past month on the write-up, somebody came in with In Walks Bud and the jazz tune. There was something about In League with Satan, you know, which is a song I'd never heard of. And what was something of Volta? I can't remember the name. It was a rock band I didn't know, but I was told I should know it. I have to look at my write-up to figure that out. And it's just amazing. People have very, very different tastes, and every month I will get a comment usually, "Oh my gosh, I love this band. I can't believe you picked it." And then and then the same month I hate these people. They're awful. So, you know, you can't please everyone. I'm looking on the comments. Let's see. It was alternative music clues. The Vulgar Boatmen. And I'd never heard of them. And there was a hip hop group named 3LW that I'd also never heard of. I guess Abby mentioned Adrienne Bailon. I hadn't heard of her as well. So it's I love the fact that we get people that like all kinds of music.
so I wanted to add related to that. I used to start my write-ups at about 10 o'clock on Sunday night for Fiend. And I've had to start them at 9:30 now because I just wind up, I like to post a cover version of the song instead of the original artist, just 'cause it's more fun. And I wound up submitting about half an hour, 45 minutes, just looking through cover versions anyway, minimum. So now I've just built that into the time I use to write the write-up.
It's really fun. I mean, there's so many great cover versions out there, and
Yeah, you can't stop listening to them. They're so interesting and so different.
Yeah, and I mean, a lot of times when I'm creating the puzzle and I'm cluing, and I want something to be musical, and there's a name, and I'm like, can I find a different musician? And I try to find somebody I've never heard of, and then I'll dive into some YouTube videos and listen while I'm cluing, and you know, I'll discover stuff that I'd never heard before. I'm like, oh wow, that's really great. Although I try to, you know, I'll try to, if I'm going to pick an artist, I want them to have a certain level of popularity. That's you know, but I've discovered so many just looking at clues. I think we've got Peter's got a hand up.
Hey, Peter, you're.
Hey, let me, before I ask my question, let me drink my Friday night beverage here.
I love it. I love it.
He makes mug. No, kind of a follow-up to your recap where your musical group is singing. It always kind of strikes me as you have this really cool house and people are just hanging around on all the couches, and you know, you just walk into a room and you've got these buddies all playing different music. I mean, where are they, what goes into like bringing certain people in to sing, to do those songs, and what's one of your favorite ones?
So the band that I tour around with, our violin player lives in New York, guitarist is in Colorado, and our cajon player and other singer lives in Mammoth. And then bass player and drummer that have played with the full band are in New York City as well. So typically we will get together every 6 weeks or so, and we will go on tours. In fact, we're starting a tour next week. We're going to be in Nashville and Boston and Virginia and LA and Chicago. So typically, if we go on tour, we will, and that's why you look at different homes. We will be staying in a hotel room or renting a house or something like that, and we will film the videos there. And before we go on tour, we'll hang out in Santa Barbara where I am, and we'll practice in the studio. So a lot of times I will know the answer for a couple months in a row. So we'll film a couple videos, and it's usually one of the musicians in the band or the whole band that I do the videos with. And
So the band members know the Mega Meta right now then, right? Because they've already sang it. Have they already practiced it?
Nope, they do not.
Okay.
You can't call them up and get an answer from them. I have actually the guitar player has done a chord chart. So if you get to him and if you find him, you can kind of torture him and ask him. But I haven't even recorded the answer for next month, even though the puzzle is done. Without giving anything away, I will tell you that it is going to be a hard one to sing. That's all I'm going to say. I don't think that gives anything away. And you asked me what was my favorite one. I think, man, there's so many that have come out of it. I was just looking at Simple Man, which was a Leonard Skinner cover that we did, I guess it was a year or two ago, and that was really fun. So I had the full band doing that. If you Google Simple Man, Pete Muller, Leonard Skinner cover, you can see that one. We did an extended version of that. But that was one of my favorites. But this one, Madness from this month, Rebel Girl, Have You Never Been Mellow, Love Is All Around. I mean, there's so many that I just actually we love doing. And in the beginning, the band wasn't so sure, and now they're like, okay, what's the next MMMM? What are we going to have to do?
Barbara.
So are any of your band members crossword solvers, and do they get the puzzles before they have to know what the answer is going to be?
They do not get the puzzles in advance. Well, I mean, they know the advance. None of them are meta solvers. So some of them like playing around and doing puzzles, but the metas are beyond them at the moment, and they're
yeah. Well, lucky for you. It's complicated.
Well, it's kind of the family members are not really eligible for prizes. But if they wanted mugs, I would give them each mugs.
No, okay.
What's that background behind you?
It's mountains of West Virginia.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, favorite vacation spot. My house is too messy to let you see that.
I understand.
Where in Virginia are you going to be playing?
We're going to be playing a place called Jamming Java. If you go to petemuller.com, there's a tour schedule, and you go to live, and it's outside. It's just outside of DC.
Is it in Vienna?
Yes, it is in
Vienna. Okay, I think I know where that is.
How far is Vienna from you?
About an hour.
If you have nothing to do, like come see us.
Yeah, I might. I'll have to check out, see when.
If you do, come say hi, please.
I will do.
So Pete, the list of where you're playing exactly in the dates are on your website?
In fact, I will go ahead and I will post a link on the side of where they are. Let's see, Pete Muller.
Someone beat you to it.
I think Kevin did.
Oh, okay, cool.
We got an active audience here.
People that are faster. Yeah, bingo. Thanks, Kevin. Oh, and Will grew up 10 minutes from Jam and Java. There we go. So cool. Yeah, no, please. I've had some crossover people where people will come to shows and say, hi, I solve your puzzles all the time, and it's always wonderful. So if you happen to be near one of those towns, come see us. Cool. Cool. Matt, do you want to do your your puzzle?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's see if I can figure out how to share. Last talk I did, it was painful sharing, but I think I figured it out now. So this, it was tough. My job here was to pick one Pete Muller meta to analyze and go over for people, and there were so many. And the one I finally chose is from December of 2018. Give me a sec here. And its title was Piano Pieces, which is fitting because Pete is a musician, of course, and it's about music, of course. Now you can see that, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, great. Wow, that took under 2 minutes. That's a huge improvement over last time. Okay, so I'm just showing you the puzzle here. The clues didn't wind up being key to this meta, so I'm going to, after this, the clues I'll be removed from the action here. But the title was Piano Pieces. Like I said, this is from December, I think, of 2018. So it was supposed to be a tough one, and it was a very tough one. You can see right under the grid, the prompt is the meta for this puzzle is a famous jazz piece. And let's see what it looked like when you solved it. New share, right? Oh, Bob, it's happening. How do I get to the next one? It's right on my screen.
Unshare and click on the next one.
Unshare. I knew we should have gone over this. Stop share. How about that?
Yep. And now click on the next one you want to show. It's
okay.
Kind of a brute force way of doing it. But...
Okay, works for me. All right. That should do it. Can you see that?
No.
No.
Whatever you did last time.
Share screen. There we go. Okay. Trust me, this is way better than it was last time. Okay. So this is the puzzle as it's solved. And, you know, one thing I like, one thing I admire so much about Pete's puzzle is that he has his own style and he doesn't stick to it every month. You can't do that. But he has, I've used the word Mullerian in my reviews at Crossword Fiend often, and it's for a grid that's something like this, where you can't really tell what is theme and what is not from the lengths and the placement of the entries in the grid. So I'll show you next on the next slide, but for this one, you can see there are two 11-letter entries, Loose Cannon and Tikka Masala vertically, and then there are, I think, 8 or so 8-letter entries. You see the main unit area and some others all around. So you don't know right off the bat what are the theme entries. And when I first started writing metas, I think pretty much every meta, most of them at least, were theme entry based, and the theme entries were clear by placement and length. But Pete has really been such an innovator in these metas where you just have to kind of look for a pattern in the grid. He doesn't just give you, he doesn't just tell you what your puzzle is right up front. You have to sort of figure out what you're supposed to figure out in the first place. So this is what it looks like as solved. I think I'll skip the one. Well, here, let's do this one. Okay. So maybe I'll skip the one that just showed those of the certain lengths. So, whoops. Can you guys see that?
Not yet.
No.
I can actually, if you want, Matt, I think I could pull it up. I could find it.
No, I have all the slides here. I just am horrible at figuring out how to do it. Okay, share screen. There we go. Okay, got it. You'll notice it's a few seconds less it takes me each time. So this is actually a huge improvement. I'm feeling very confident, believe it or not. Okay, so one thing I was looking for in this grid is, well, I skipped over it, but you'll notice that the previous grid had, I'll just show you, you can see my cursor on the screen, right? Or not really?
Yes.
Okay, so the upper, in the past slide, see where Galpal is and O'Toole is here? This A, L, and E right here had black squares in it. And this D, I, and N had black squares in it too. So often in Pete's metas where he doesn't give you any hints as to what the theme entries actually are, you have to just kind of look around and say, where is the weakest fill? Where is something that's suspicious? And Pete's really good at giving you just enough hints, like in a murder mystery or in an episode of Law and Order, where they'd give you just enough hints where you could say, maybe on a second viewing or a second reading, I should have noticed it the first time, that why did that have to be like that? You know, why was there this thing on the guy's door when the police knocked on it? Or why was there this other little subtle hint? And the one in this puzzle was, like I said, these two, this upper right corner and this lower left corner. So what I'm showing here is not the fill that Pete used. This is the fill that would have been possible if instead of black squares here at the ALE and at the DIN here, if you just had just opened it up and like any crossword writer would do instinctively, just open it up and use as few black squares as possible. And you can see the fill took me 5 seconds with autofill to come up with perfectly clean stuff here. So obviously there's something going on, especially in this upper right and lower left corners. So I said, let me take a look at those two areas of the grid. And as I did that, I noticed we want this one. Okay. Okay, so as we did that, we noticed, no, this actually gives the game away, but the first thing I noticed in this lower right corner was this name Kim, and then the word ball. And I thought, well, Kimball, that's a last name. I can't think of anyone famous with it, but I've heard that. So I said to myself, well, that's interesting. That would be a good reason to have these 3 dark squares here. And you see the rest of the fill. I should have pointed this out earlier, but the rest of the fill is pretty awful down here, even with the black squares. You have Esai, E-S-A-I, who's a well-known actor, but still, you know, he's pretty commonly seen in crosswords. You don't use it unless you have to. And then you have is ISAS, which I guess was clued as is as some partial phrase. So could have been much cleaner. And then to go back and look at this upper right-hand corner, it's not too bad, but you have SETI, which is a bit obscure, Kato Kalin, who is, you know, whose shelf life is years in the past. Misan is tough. And again, it could have been much cleaner. But I noticed this word Kimball, and I said, well, that's interesting. Let me look in the other side. And I saw the word Bald and Wynn. And there's another name that I recognize as a last name, this one more famous, you know, Alec Baldwin and so on. So I Googled it. And I remember my thought process. This is a nice thing about blogging these, because I could go back and see what my process was, because I wrote about it at the time. And I saw that both of these were famous companies that produce pianos. Now, I couldn't have told you that beforehand. Neither one even now strikes a chord as being a famous piano company. But then I thought, well, you know, the one I know, the one everybody knows, is the Steinway company, of course. And I said to myself, well, let's look. And sure enough, there you can see in the left center of the grid is Stein. And then curiously detached, not really that close, is Way, W-A-Y. And I said, well, that's, you know, it's got to be something, but it's weird how kind of far away from each other they are in the grid. They're not real close like Baldwin and Kim and Ball are. And so I knew we were looking for a 5, what was the prompt? A 5,
It was
a famous jazz piece. Yeah, famous jazz piece. But I said, well, let me look around further and see what we can find. And you can see even more hidden. You see Yamaha, Yam and Aha here in the lower right and the center right. And then symmetrically, you have Boss and Tund, which again was a piano company that I hadn't heard of, but you know, Boston strikes me as a piano town. Maybe I'm thinking of Brendan Quigley's typewriter orchestra there. And I looked it up, and indeed, we have 5 piano makers here. So this has got to be the right track. And I admired already how subtle the hints were to get here. You didn't have to know all 5 piano companies to get here. Everybody would know Steinway, but you're not likely to see Stein and Way, you know, not that close to each other in the grid. But it turns out they're closer than they appear. Now, I didn't actually wind up getting this meta, which is, well, no, I did wind up getting it, but not for the right reason. I kind of backdoored it a little bit, and you get it, but you feel kind of icky about it because you didn't see everything, but that's meta sometimes. So I was looking, I said, well, that's clearly the first step. 5 piano companies symmetrically placed, except for Steinway, but the others can't be a coincidence. But what now? And I looked, and I may have been pressed for time, I don't recall, but I wound up submitting the jazz piece by Dave. Is it Dave Brubeck or Dave Clark? Who is it?
It's Dave Brubeck.
Dave Brubeck.
Paul Desmond wrote it, but Dave.
Okay,
Brubeck did it.
Dave Brubeck, right? Called Take 5, and I wound up submitting that, but I wasn't sure it was right. I knew there were 5 piano pieces here. I knew there was a famous jazz piece. But I knew there had to be a step I was missing because there's some reason they're placed this way. And I really, it's one of those where sometimes it's worse to get a meta and not have seen the beautiful final step than it is to just completely miss it altogether. And this is one of those where even now looking at it 3 years later, I'm, gosh, A, why didn't I think of this idea myself? And B, why didn't I couldn't even, how could I think of it myself? I couldn't even see it when it was presented to me. So that was not a possibility, but it's just beautiful second step. And those of you that remember it will see this. And the final step is so simple once it's pointed out to you, and that is to just connect the 2 pieces of the piano. So you have the TA connecting bass and ton, you have the K connecting bald and win, the EF, and you see one beautiful aspect of this is how far away that Stein and that way look. They look like they're at random places in the grid. They don't look, but that shortcut through those 2 black squares, the diagonal shortcut, it just somehow tricks the brain into thinking that they can't be connected so quickly, but they are. And then you've got Kimball and Yamaha connected by the I and the V. And in order, of course, you know, obviously Pete's not going to leave an elegance like this unaddressed, is spells Take 5, which is the answer. So this, I believe, was the highest rated puzzle on Crossword Fiend in 2018. I'm pretty sure it was. I think one person gave it a 4.5, and that person must have had a bad day. I admired it so much, and I keep saying how envious I am of some of Pete's puzzles, and this was one where I was half applauding and half kicking myself, but it's a thing of beauty, and it's typical of Pete's trademark style, I think, of leaving, forcing you to recognize a pattern in the grid amongst the noise of all these letters, wondering, could this possibly be something? Could that be something? Could that really not be something? And then finally you see it and you say, aha, this has to be it, but you've still got a bunch of threads you have to unravel. And at the end, there's one final beautiful step. So bravo, Pete. One of my very favorites of his entire decade of metas.
Wow, thank you, Matt. That's you know, you told me you were going to blog that, and I thought I would share one thing on that, where, you know, people, there's always a lot of pain that goes into constructing. Not always, sometimes a lot of pain that could go into making a puzzle. So I pulled up, I have a drafts folder for each puzzle that I do, and this was the first thing that I came up with for that puzzle. I thought, okay, I'm going to do piano pieces, and I'm going to have 4 symmetric breakdown. I had Baldwin, Boston, Yamaha, and Kimball, and I'm like, okay, that's not that good, and what can I do with that? And then how do I connect them? I don't know what to do. And I'm going to show you progressively how the puzzle evolved. The next thing that I did was I thought, okay, I came up with this idea, and I put Steinway in there, but I couldn't figure out how this one could fill. So I kept trying, and then in my process, once I make the grid bigger in Crossword Compiler, I'm like, okay, I think that can fill. And it turns out I couldn't. So I changed the answer to, instead of Take 5, I went to FURLISE. You can see FURELISE. So I tried the, you know, it was going to be FURLISE for a little while. And turned out that was no easier to fill. This is also a FURLISE grid. And all of these are different grids that I had. And then I thought, okay, screw it. I can't do Steinway. How's about Beckstein? And it turns out that Beck is a John Updike character. And I thought, okay, that's a little weak because it's not very well known. I didn't know it. Let me keep trying. And then I went back to Take 5, switched a couple things around, switched it around again, switched it around again, and then started filling. And at this point was just trying to find good fill, but you can see here's one fill, and we're not going to dwell on these. Here's another fill, here's a third fill, here's a fourth fill, here's a fifth fill, until finally you got to the grid that I already had. And even then, because it was so tricky, you still had those messy corners. You had Isai and Kato and Is-As and all that. And you know, like you, because you do this as well. I spend a lot of time trying to, make sure if there's questionable fill in there, there has to be a real reason. I try really hard to get rid of it. Probably too hard. But it's I put a lot of work into it because I want the experience to be similar to what you described, which is I want solvers to try really hard. And I think Mike Schenk said this, who creates amazing puzzles at the Journal, and he has a weekly meta now, and I've published one or two there. He said, I want to fight incredibly hard against the solver and then eventually lose. I think he said it was something like that. He said it better than that. But that's what I feel too, right? It's that's what I want to do. So cool. We can go for more questions. I also wanted to share one other thing that I recently, a puzzle type I invented. I don't know how many of you have heard of the mini meta that is now in the Washington Post. I'm happy to share that. I have a couple photos of that if you want to do that, and we can even do a quick demo of that if people want to see.
Well, while you're pulling it up, Pete or Matt, do you guys feel that you can, once you get the meta part done, you can always fill the grid in?
I'll let Matt answer that one first.
Certainly not. This was actually, Golem just commented on the chat that Pete, your archiving is impressive there, and I agree. That was absolutely fascinating to see the process of that, and that you saved it. That was great. Wow, that was cool. I empathize and sympathize with what you went through on that one, because the finished product is often, draft number 17 or draft number 5 or something, and that really illustrated it. No, you can't always, by a long shot, fill your first thought.
Yeah, and a lot of times you probably do the same thing. You get stubborn. You're like, no, I really want this to work. I've got it packed exactly right. And the reality is you have one too many theme entries, or you've gotten too ambitious for a 15 by 15, and then you end up spending an hour or two tearing your hair out trying to make it fill, and finally realizing, okay, no, I can't use ugsome or whatever the word I want. Now people, not like the puzzle. And then you start again, and you realize that throwing it away and starting again is so important. I mean, songwriting is very similar. You have to, you fall in love with an idea, and then you have to throw it away and keep doing that. And there's a process, and then it flows. So, cool. Okay, let me show you guys this. I think so. One of the things I did a little more than a year ago, I thought. And so some of you saw that the Mega Meta was Final Countdown last year, right? And when I put that in, I thought, this could be the last year of the MMMM, and I want to give myself the option of doing that. And then I decided I like doing it too much, but maybe I could get a little bit of help. And so I went around looking for somebody to help, and I found a student at Princeton who I said, do you want to come work on the MMMM with me? And help me, work on fills and different things. And I think he's on. His name is Andrew White. I don't know if Andrew's on here.
Hi.
Hey, there he is. And so we ended up working well together. It was really fun. We started a little crossword club of Princeton kids where we go over puzzles every week, which we suspended, but we hopefully get back. And he took a year off. And then one of the things that we did was we invented a new type of puzzle that is now in the Post every day, and it's called a mini meta. And I don't know how many of you have seen it, but let me show you a couple to give you the idea of what it is. Okay, I cannot minimize Zoom. Oh, I don't want to minimize Zoom. I want to share. So let's see if I can do this. But Andrew's worked out great. The only problem is he's back in school, so it gets a little tougher. But let's see, I'm going to share. Every day of the week in the post, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. There's nothing on Saturday. There is a mini puzzle, and people I imagine are all familiar with mini puzzles. And then after 6 days, you get a series of minis, and the idea is that you pick one word in each of the first 5 minis to clue a word that's in the 6th mini. So if you guys like, we can try to do this together. Have people seen this? So I'll show you. I'll show you how it works. So I get to pick one word in each day. So in the first day, for this puzzle, the word you want to pick is epic, and then the next one is 9. The third one is part. The fourth one is space. Who wants to chime in and tell me what the 5th one is? Epic, 9, part, space. Maggie's got it. Boom, opera. Epic, 9, part, space, opera. So what's the answer? Who's going to give me the answer first? I'm looking at the chat. Bingo, Matt's got it. No, it's not Zorro. It's Star Wars.
I think you should accept Zorro as an alternate answer.
Possible, but I'll show you how that works. Let's see, I have to pull it up and share it. Mini solved. So the answer, let's see, is, boom, looks like this, in that you start on the S.
Oh, wow, look at that.
And you go through and you do Star Wars. So you can find the answer in the 6th puzzle.
That's great.
No, you're not allowed to duplicate a letter, and you have to find an orthogonal path. So the answer, and so you can get a hint and you can get a category, but people, these are really fun. We have something like 5,000 or 6,000 people doing these every day online on the mini, and the meta seems to be catching on. So if you like, Andrew can actually demonstrate one of these, or I can show you another one. Do people want to take a look?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Andrew, do you want to try, or should I show one more?
Yeah, I can try to pull it up and see if it works. I'm joined on my phone, so.
Hey, Andrew, do you want me to make you a co-host so you can share your screen?
That would be great. The one that says Android demo, it's on my phone because the app that we're developing is mobile. So if you could make that one a co-host, that would be lovely. Thank you.
Wait a minute.
Oh, wow. This actually looks like it's working. Fantastic.
Unmute yourself, Andrew.
I was just bragging about my technological ability as possibly the youngest person on this call, and then started speaking while muted. So clearly I should think first before I speak. So
you're low battery too. You're down to 13%.
Live life on the edge, you know. Yeah, so this is just basically what a week of puzzles looks like. Obviously, on a daily basis, these are rolled out one by one, but just look at them on the whole. What I'll do is probably true. What I'll do is probably reveal them. Should we go through the solve process?
I think that's probably better.
Yeah.
The interface is really cool, because you don't actually have numbers. You just, the clues there. So as you scroll on your iPhone, you can see it. But he's going to reveal the answers to every day, just in the interest of time.
Yeah. It's something that that we did while we were developing this was, as well as the meta aspect, we wanted to diversify the field of mini puzzles that exists, because most of the ones that are offered at the moment are kind of all the same very easy difficulty. And we wanted to kind of bridge that gap between something that's very easy for intro solvers and people who are maybe scared of larger crosswords or only can do minis and want a little bit of a challenge. So when we develop each week of puzzles, I also try to make sure that the fill increases in difficulty as the week goes on, but also the cluing as well. Oh, did this just reset? I think it did. That's great. Oops. Well, we will run through that real quickly again. Sorry about that. Check. I should have set this up before, my bad. Wanted to make sure. So once we totally legitimately solve this final puzzle, it's going to tell us to solve the meta. And so we're here now. Should I just put the words in, or should we do some guessing? What do we think?
Hey, maybe you want to see if people can figure it out?
Yeah, give us 30 seconds or so.
Sure.
Yeah. I'm not sure which one you picked, so I'm going to be solving it a long time.
They go across, the second puzzle is zigs, right?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
It is this one, then this one, then this
Okay.
one, this one, this one.
Okay.
Oops.
Peter, there's your last name there.
I'm just gonna, sorry, I didn't mean to click all of them. I'm just gonna keep them highlighted on the first one down. The answer is not base team wads dirt erase, I will say.
Let's see.
Star Trek.
Okay.
Ooh.
I think we got our first correct response there.
Maggie,
Yeah.
Maggie,
Nice.
nailed it.
Nice, Maggie. You beat me by 5 seconds or so.
So
Okay, but you haven't.
not all of them are based on space-based entertainment properties. Also,
Actually, and Matt got the answer first. Nice.
oh, amazing.
Well, I don't have the final answer. I don't think I just got I didn't get the last meta answer.
No, Matt Holmes. Matt Holmes.
Oh, okay.
He typed in the final.
Yeah. So if we pull this up, I see that someone got the answer. So that would be human. And that's the whole gamut.
This is really neat. I knew of the existence of this meta, but I didn't know exactly what it was. This is absolutely fascinating. And Pete, you came up with this whole concept?
I did. It was my invention, but I will say that now for the puzzles, Andrew is doing almost all the work. I mean, we brainstorm the 5-letter things together, do that together and the answer. But then when it comes to filling and gluing the grids, he's a machine.
And can you tell us how this came about? Like the Washington Post is emerging as a leader in metas. I mean, they publish Evans once every month or so in the Post magazine. They publish yours, Pete. Is it every month, right?
They publish mine every month. That's been happening for the last 2 years now, and I got to thank Evan for that. I called Evan up and I said, "Hey, I would love to have the monthly meta published, and he said, well, I'm close to the guy at the Post, I can introduce you." And I talked to him and I said, I do this for love, not for a lot of money. What do you think? And he said, great. And we started the relationship. It worked fantastically, and they've been running it every month. And then he called me and he said, you know what, we've been thinking, we want to do a daily puzzle, because at the Post, so Evan's puzzle on Sunday is fabulous. If you don't do that Sunday puzzle, my gosh, he's amazing. I love Matt's puzzles. I love Evan's puzzles, and they're, there are a few more constructors that are really fantastic. But he was great, but the Post runs the LA Times puzzle every day. They don't have their own daily puzzle, and I was talking to them, and they said, we'd love to do a daily. And I thought, I don't know if I could help with that. That's just too much work. There's no way I could help curate that or do anything. But I thought, maybe you could come up with something different. And that's what started me thinking about the mini meta concept. And I thought, how could you make minis more appealing? And so I iterated a few times, came up with that concept and ran it by them. And I said, do you want to try it? And they thought, that's cool. If you want to run a 3-month demo, we can try it. And if people seem to like it, we'll actually pay you for it. And I thought, that sounds great.
So
And
how long has it been running?
when did we start, Andrew? I think, are we on like week 47?
It's been running
Wow.
since March, since
Okay.
March 1st.
And they just told us they're renewing for all of next year.
It's such a clever idea. And like I said, I'm embarrassed to say this is the first time I knew it existed, but I didn't know exactly what it was. And really, the thing that knocks it out of the park is that last step where the meta winds its way through the grid and who knows in what direction. That's really nice. It's funny for me to watch the growth of metas. Obviously, I can't even keep track of all of it because I didn't know about this. But like I said, the Post is really emerging. Obviously, the Journal has done a great job, but I kind of wonder when the New York Times is going to come on board. They've run a couple of, mega metas, kind of not Pete Muller mega metas, but huge size mega metas, but they're like 50 by 50 or something. But they've only done 2 of those, I think. So makes you wonder.
When we came up with the concept, I actually, I know Will, so I emailed Will and Joel at the New York Times first, and I said, would you be interested in this? And they said, not so sure. We have our.
Is that right?
Well, they have their own mini already.
Yeah.
And they have a pretty good mini, and so I think they were worried about cannibalizing or whatever. But it's gotten pretty popular now. What you guys just saw is an app we developed that runs on the iPhone right now, but it's workable for Android too. But the Post has its own software that they run for the mini. So if you do them on the Post site, you have to go through a little bit of ads. You don't have to pay for them, but you have to go through ads to do it. But it works, and I think Andrew just put the link up if you want to see it. If anybody wants to test out this app and get the puzzle delivered for free, just email us and say, I'd like to be on your beta tester list, and we would be happy to give you the app. We're trying to get the Post to just take the app and do it, since I don't want to be in the app business, and neither does Andrew. But it's a much more fun interface to solve the puzzle on, especially if you have the iPhone now, and we built it so that it could be on the Android too.
Well, minis are fun, but they're still, the regular mini is still just a tiny crossword. This has a new dimension that's not just a standard little thing. That was really fun to sit there and look at that and do that. I want to do more of those. So I think you got a winner on your hands there.
We'll get you the app if you want.
Okay, I'll take it.
Pretty addictive. The thing that I figured out, my wife, who loves to do crosswords, but typically runs out of patience on a later week New York Times puzzle, loves these things. And if I give them to her, she's like, okay, I can't. I have to solve this. And she's gotten really good at it. We also wanted it to be a manageable amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
You should be able to, I don't know, do the whole week. And what do you think, Andrew? What's a good amount of time? If you're pretty experienced, 15 minutes ish.
I would say so, something like that.
Yeah.
My mom does them every week, and she always sends me her times, and she says anywhere from like 8 to 20 minutes it takes her to do the whole week and the metas and stuff.
Yeah. It's kind of cool. So you have a daily puzzle in a national newspaper as a Princeton junior. Pretty good.
Yeah, and you get that rush. You get that rush of the meta just in not in an hour, but in 6 or 8 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever.
Exactly. So cool. Well, should we open up for a few more questions? We have something like 10 more minutes to go on the call. If people would like to ask anything else about the minis or the metas.
A question for you guys. How do you decide how hard to make the clues? Because we talked about the meta and filling in the grid, but sometimes the clues are impossible. Sometimes the clues are easy for the same kind of answers.
I think we'll have different answers. I'll take a crack at it, but I'd love to hear what Matt says too. For me, I shoot for somewhere between Tuesday and Thursday, and it probably depends a little bit on whether I'm cluing in the morning, at night, how difficult it is, and my general mood. But I will send it to test solvers and look at their times and try to keep it in the same range. If the meta is especially hard, I will err on making the clues a little easier. And if I think if the meta is a little easier for the month, maybe I'll make the clues a little harder. For both of them, I really, what I like to do when I'm solving a crossword is I like to smile. And if I do a crossword, if I do one of Matt's puzzles, I will always smile at some of the clues. And I want people to, for at least a few clues that they do, to smile or crack up. And, maybe there's just a similar clue that's rhyming between two words that are next to each other, or something that's kind of funny and absurd. But I try hard to put a few of those in the puzzle too. And then occasionally I'll err on the side of making things too difficult. I think it was a year or two ago, people started commenting, oh my gosh, the grid fill is so hard. And I don't want that to be the case. I'm not trying to go for a Saturday fill. I want people to get to the meta and try to do that. And so if you can solve a Tuesday or Wednesday New York Times, you should be able to get it.
But Pete, don't you worry sometimes about getting too clever with the clues because people think it's part of the meta and it's not, and that annoys them?
Yes, I'm very careful not to. Sometimes later in the year I might try a red herring to actually deliberately do that, but I don't want to accidentally mislead them. I want to intentionally mislead them.
I mean, I get so paranoid. Like if I have Rome and Italy at totally different sides of a puzzle, and they're not related to the meta at all, people are like, "Why did you have both the country and the capital if it wasn't related to the meta?" It's like it's just 5 and 4 letters. It's just what fit there, So in the clues, I especially try to say no, nothing clever at all. Just clue them. Tuesday is a good level, as you said.
Yeah, I find yours. Yeah, hit about Tuesday, which is pretty good. Yeah, but sometimes solving a puzzle is really fun too. So I don't want to go. I know Mike Schenk sometimes in the journal. Sometimes his metas will be at Thursday level. I'll notice.
Any other questions?
Cool. Well, this has been really fun, and
Oh, wait a minute. We've got one question from Mike W.
Okay.
I have one for Pete too later when we're done.
Okay.
I saved one.
Okay, good.
Yeah. Has anyone correctly solved all your metas over the 10 years?
Whew. For a while, I think Jangler had it all, but then I think he missed a month. So I don't think anybody's gotten them all.
You don't remember what you stumped him on, or?
I stumped him on one. I think there was one where he forgot to send in an answer.
Okay.
But there was I can't remember the one I stumped him on. It wasn't a super hard one either, but there was one where he just slipped. I think he sent in the wrong answer and he broke his streak after 6 or 7 years. I'm not sure. I published an all-time leaderboard, and I'm going to see if I can find it. pmxwords.com all-time leaderboard. And I bring it up every year. Lifetime leaderboard. Let's see if this actually. Yep, this looks right. Let me share it. I typically don't look at this except for the end of the year. And these are the total points. Now the tricky part of this is, so this is scored by lifetime total. So Brett Holman has the highest number of points, but you get points for solving the mega meta early, and you get it for the red herring. So this doesn't actually tell you how many people have actually solved. View number correct. There we go. That'll do it. So Brett Holman, at least going back to 2013, we don't have 2012. Looks like he's gotten almost all of them right. And then Jangler fell off. I think he stopped doing them for a little bit in 18 and 19. And Jay is very close with 101. So I don't know if 103 is everyone, and I don't know if Brent's on the call. Cool. And I see that.
Great.
Golem has a question.
Cool.
You guys ever consider doing cryptics?
I love solving cryptics. One of my favorite solves of the week is or of the month is the variety cryptic that Hex does for the journal. That puzzle is amazing. I love Patrick Berry's variety puzzles too, and when he does a cryptic. I have not. I thought about it. I started one once, and then I thought, I've got enough to do. I'm not going to tackle this. How about you, Matt?
No, my personality type is I like to either go all in on something or not at all. So metas and standard crosswords are my two things. Cryptics, I do enjoy solving the occasional cryptic, especially if it's, if I'm moving some boxes and I see an old Henry Hook book from the early 90s and I open it up and there's an unsolved cryptic, I might take 30 minutes and solve that. Or if there's some special one I want to do, I can solve them. I don't think I've ever written one. Yeah, I once wrote one. I wrote one. It was I just remember went across, but the answer was Gene Siskel, and just noticed that Genesis was the first 7 letters of Gene Siskel's name, and then you anagrammed elk for some reason. But it's not really how my brain works. I admire it in others, but it's not really my bag.
I see a question from Katie Did, which is about, do my kids do crosswords? And it's funny, we've started, because my wife likes doing them too, we've started giving them the Monday New York Times as a shared project. And so Monday after dinner, we'll sometimes, most times we'll say, you guys can't get on your electronics until you at least solve half the Monday crossword. So they're getting better at it. We don't want to force them too much. And my son actually enjoys it.
I had a question for you that I really did want to ask, and I want to sneak it in here before we end. So in the past year or so of blogging your puzzles at Fiend, I have kept using this Mullerian style of meta where you don't know exactly what the theme entries are. There'll be maybe 8 entries or 10 entries of 9 or 10 letters or longer, and it turns out that only 6 of them are meta related, or 0 of them, or 1 or 2 of them. And you're always just on the right side of the law, like 2 of them will be not meta related. They'll be the same length as the others, but they were down, so that kind of gets you out of it. Or it's a recommendation, it's not a rule. Are you aware that you're doing this? Are you intentionally making these wide open grids to deceive people into what's theme and what's not, or are you just going for a wide open grid just to do it?
I do love wide open grids. I do the first 3 or 4 months of the year, the theme entries should be completely obvious, or starred, or have a parenthetical. So there are really only 2 or 3 puzzles a year, I think, where the themers are not completely obvious. Maybe it's a little more than that.
It's more than that.
Is it more than that?
Yeah, I think it's a trend.
I like it. I mean, but it definitely has to be fair, right? Just like with the piano pieces puzzle, that I think next month might fall into that category too. We'll see.
I sort of evolved a view of it that it was so impressive that you were actually able to pull it off that I wasn't even bothered when it was technically, wait, this one's theme and this one's not, and this one's one. The non-theme is 1 letter longer than the theme, which when you would.
Here's my rule: is if it's 8 letters or longer and it's an across answer, and there are long across answers, those are themers.
Huh, okay. I might hold you to that.
The 7s are okay. Downs can be as long as you like, and those are not themers unless all of your downs are themers.
Okay, so you view downs and crosses as fundamentally differently in that sense. Interesting.
Yeah, if you're trying to describe themers. Now, if you have a puzzle where you have 4 13-letter words, 2 of them are crosses, 2 of them downs, those are probably themers. Those are probably all themers. But if you have 3 or 4 crosses that are long and then a couple 10s that are downs, those are just fun-filled because they're interesting. The reason puzzles like the Rose Garden are so cool and all that is that longer entries are way more fun than shorter entries. So I really try hard to have wider grids if I can. I don't like really tight spaces. I don't like a lot of 3-letter words. When I'm filling a grid, I count the number of 3-letter words, and if it's over 14, I try really hard to reduce it. Now, occasionally you can't help it, but I really like having a small number of 3-letter words.
Okay, interesting. Because every month at Fiend, I was writing month after month after month. I really don't know what the theme entries are in this grid, and sometimes, like I said, it was 8 out of 8. Other times it was 0 out of 8 or 3 out of 8. So All right, now I know a little bit more, and like I said, I'm going to hold you to that.
Okay, that sounds cool. Now you've got a perfect record this year, don't you?
Yep, 9 for 9. I plan to. It's been a while since I had a perfect year. It's been, I think, since like 2017 or 16. So I'm taking it very seriously.
Okay. I like it. I'm going to make. I'm going to try to make November very hard then.
Okay.
I have. I just came up with the idea, so I'll see if it works. But it might not be actually for you. It might not be that hard. You might. You have a shot this year.
All right. I look forward to it.
Cool. So we have a couple questions that popped in from Julie and Kelly. When I complete the New York Times or Washington Post, they indicate the puzzles have been solved correctly. I don't seem to get that when I finish your puzzles. Is that deliberate? Is that solving them online? If that's the question, then online given that they're meta puzzles, it doesn't tell you that you've solved them correctly, because that would give it away. So if you're using the online interface, it will not tell you that it's correct or not. And then, right, if you're using the across light, thank you, Frank, for pointing that out, the solutions are locked. So the puzzles are locked. When you send yours, they're locked too, right, Matt? When you send yours out.
Yeah, although this week was accidentally unlocked, but that was not meta related. I just forgot.
Well,
maybe we could have filled in the grid instantly.
This was just pointed out to me by my webmaster about an hour ago that I didn't lock it, but not on purpose.
Now the Wall Street Journal grids are open. Those are unlocked.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah. I think. Yeah. I don't think it's that big a deal. You can decide if you want to, if you want help or if you want to just solve it yourself.
Yeah, the Wall Street Journals are unlocked except for Friday, and it seems like every Friday somebody asks the question, "Oh, how come I can't get the answer?"
Are they unlocked now? Are they locked now, the Fridays?
On Friday they are.
Oh, I thought they were unlocked.
Except on the iPad.
Really, when I click on, I get the puzzle through Fiend, the Wall Street, the Journal, and I click on this week's puzzles, and it's unlocked. Or at least it has been.
Yeah, I can reveal the journal puzzle on my iPad, but not online.
Interesting.
That's funny.
Only on Friday, not Thursday at 4.
Oh, on Friday. That's interesting. But Thursday at 4 is when when it comes out.
Oh, so there's 12 hours when you can't have it revealed. Interesting. Okay, makes sense. Well, good. This has been so much fun. If there's any other questions, or we've been a good hour and a half. I've learned a lot. Pete, this has been absolutely fascinating to me. I've always wanted to talk to you, and I just, 10 years go by and nobody ever picked up the phone, but now we did it. So I learned a lot, and I hope everyone else did. And it was nice to see so many faces I haven't seen before. Golem, nice to see you. So many others from the previous talk. Andrew, nice to meet you. You're doing great things with the mini meta there. Will Fadnauer, nice to see you again. You're doing a lot of great metas at your site. So things are looking good here. Metas are going strong.
No, Matt, thank you so much for, I remember when you first came on the scene, and you've always been so generous and gracious about other people solving, in addition to doing fantastic work yourself. So I appreciate you reaching out.
I guess, and we all owe Matt a great debt of gratitude for making you do metas, Pete. It was Matt's idea, right?
It was. He challenged me, and he did make that promise, which he has fulfilled, even though he's forgotten it about blogging.
Well, it's so much fun, and like I said, I saw blogging a puzzle forces me to solve it and pay attention to it. And I'm glad if I can choose one that I have to solve and I have to pay attention to, it's yours, because like I said before, you've kept the quality you've established and then maintained a level of quality that's just not only impressive, but inspirational to me. Keeps me going, you know, like you look and you see a runner, you look behind and you see they're not behind you, they're right next to you. They're like forging ahead of you. You say, okay, I better keep up. So
Yeah, no, likewise. I see your puzzles and I go, oh my gosh, how does he do that every week?
and there's so many right next to us too. So it's wonderful.
Indeed. It's fantastic. Thank you all for being part of this, and great to see your faces. And
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Thank you, Pete. This has been great.
Yeah. And thank you, Bob, for moderating. Appreciate it.
appreciate it, Bob.
Happy to
Thanks,
do it.
Dave, for the technical help.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Good night.